Pacify, a video game from the creator of Emily Wants to Play, Shawn Hitchcock. Yeah, that's going to be the main focus of this podcast. Also, I'm going to be doing this one alone, just as a heads up, so don't expect Stealthy or Rye Raps to show up on here. But, so, let's just jump right in. Pacify is a simple enough game on the surface, as with most horror games is the case. There are 3 different missions that you can do, at least at the moment. Shawn plans on adding more. But, let's start with the first one, the Dolls mission. The Dolls mission, you are at this abandoned house that this guy wants to sell, but nobody will buy it because people think an evil lives inside of it. Which is more or less the case. You are hired, you're not directly hired, but you work for the Paranormal Activity Helpers Incorporated, which, as the name suggests, helps with paranormal activity. Your job is to just go into the house and find if there's any paranormal activity. Similar to Phasmophobia, but like Phasmophobia, there's an evil in the house. Now let's get started on that evil. Throughout the game, you'll find these dolls, either creepy black and white ones or regular dolls that look just like dolls your kid would play with. But there is something lurking. A little girl is in the house, just walking around, roaming around, and she's not aggressive, at least not at first. If you do anything to provoke her, like you can shove her, you can burn a doll, she will get mad, and that's where the evil comes in. The evil is in the girl. It's sort of like those demons that possess people. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it is. And so you have to try and survive the night and defeat the girl. That's just the basic premise of the first mission. But throughout the house, there are these notes that will tell you how to beat the girl, but they'll also give you backstory on what happened. And here is actually where a reference to Emily Wants to Play happens in the house. Multiple of the notes are written by Voltladier. If you've played Emily Wants to Play or Emily Wants to Play 2, you'll most likely recognize that name. Voltladier owned this house. Is basically like a funeral home. At least the people who previously lived here. And then a girl walked into town, and Voltladier and his wife Gretchen took her in and named her Amelia. Then one day, as they're working, they're like a funeral home, so they're just doing stuff like cremation, funerals, burials, and, private services. They soon get sparked, since a few of their clients talked about this. They think of a way to try and temporarily bring back the lost loved ones so their living loved ones can have a chance to say a final goodbye. They do this with a sort of ritual where They give Amelia a marked doll. That doll is possessed by the person, and while Amelia is holding that doll, the person can talk. The dead person, obviously, can talk through Amelia with their loved ones. As you can imagine, with satanic rituals and all, this is normally how it happens. It goes south. Way, way, way south. An evil sort of demon, or as Voltlidier says, a darkness that cannot be controlled, gets inside of Amelia. And then stuff starts happening. Amelia is sort of like becoming angry and like lashing out and doing all this paranormal stuff. But giving her her favorite doll would calm her down, and so they purchased multiple of the dolls. That's pretty much the backstory. Now moving on to the current story and the actual gameplay. The gameplay is actually really cool, because it's a co-op horror game. You can play with your friends, or you can play solo if you have the balls, since this game is actually pretty hard on solo. And so, as you're reading these notes, you find out how to defeat the girl and her backstory. And the only way to defeat her is apparently to burn the marked dolls, which are the black and white ones. So, after you read that note, you start gathering materials to burn the dolls. And to burn the dolls, you need all the materials, which will sometimes be hard to get because it may be locked in a room. There are multiple different areas of the house. There is a key in each area of the house that will unlock the doors to another area. And you have to do this all while the girl is chasing you. Because she'll start out pacified, and then if you burn a doll or do something to piss her off, or a time limit, an invisible time limit just goes off, she will become angry and try to not kill you. But when she gets you, there will be a super cool jump scare where she sort of stares at you, and you will be turned into a doll. But not like an actual doll, you'll just become a tiny version of yourself. Like a foot tall version of yourself. If you're already a foot tall, this doesn't really impact you. And so, she does this, and there is a way to undoll yourself, but as well as a way to calm her down. It's not like she becomes pissed off and then starts killing you all with no hope. There are colored dolls, as I said before, not the marked ones, that you can give her. These are apparently the multiple dolls that Voltlidier and Gretchen bought to calm Amelia down. So, you can calm her down, but burning a marked doll in the furnace, which you will need a key to access, will automatically make her mad. And the more dolls you burn, the less... Basically, when you pacify her, she will be on a sort of cooldown before she can get mad again, unless you either burn a marked doll or provoke her in some way. With each marked doll burn, that cooldown on which she can't be mad gets shorter. And when there's only one doll left, it's just done. She becomes a blood red, moving super fast. Giving her a marked doll will only calm her... Well, not a marked doll, a colored doll will only calm her down for a few seconds, and then she'll be back up in the air. The house is like sort of a maze, especially since a bunch of the rooms look the same. And with how fast Amelia moves after a certain amount of time, your chasing is actually really fun. You can run from her, you can try to hide. And speaking of running, the marked dolls run around. If you go into the attic and you have the attic key, try to find the attic door. You will unlock the attic door, and when you open it, there's actually a really cool jump scare. There will be a bunch of the marked dolls on a bench, and they'll just automatically jump up and start running around the house. So yeah, if the girl chasing you around was bad enough, you have to chase the little evil dolls around. And on co-op, this can actually get catastrophic because you got your friends running around, bumping into you, leading her to you, sort of like Dead by Daylight, where that person leads the killer to you. If they want to. But whatever. That's a different topic. But if you burn all the marked dolls before she kills you, well, turns you all into dolls, you will defeat her. The darkness will have left her. Oh, also, I have said this before, but if you are a doll and you touch the furnace while it is lit, you become normal. Then, you can do one of two things after you defeat Amelia. You can either take her to the van, or you can burn her in the furnace. Basically, here's how it works. In each Pacify level, there is 3 endings. Most people call it the good ending, the bad ending, and the secret ending. I just call it the good ending, the bad ending, and then the worst ending. When you take Amelia to the van. And this is where you actually learn that what Paranormal Activity Helpers Incorporated actually does. When you take her to the van, a cutscene will play, and she will be in this room, and she'll be in this cell, and the darkness is back in her. As the guy is talking to you about your next assignment, like the HQ guy, she becomes pissed and tries to get out. And now for the bad ending. The bad ending is when you burn her in the furnace. And then a cutscene will play where instead of Amelia being in the cell, you are in the cell.
Why would you burn the girl?
People are experimenting on you since you burned the girl and didn't bring her back with you. Quite the company, am I right?
You can't leave.
Am I right?
In the meantime, I have an easy job for you.
But that's just
lay there.
The bad ending. The worst ending is obviously when the girl turns you all into dolls. That is just one mission, though. The second mission is the farm. I'm a boy farmer. A boy farmer. I'm a farmer boy. That's a reference. Hands, high five to people who get that reference. And if you don't get it, oh well. The farm aesthetically did look a lot better than the doll's house. And in this farm, the farm consists of 4 different areas. There's the entrance, actually 5 different areas. We'll say 5 different areas. There's the entrance, the house, the barn, the windmill, and the shack. And this is the thing I really like about the game Pacify. Each level is similar to the previous level, but is different enough to where it doesn't get boring. And hopefully they can keep that trend up, especially since all the antagonists are different. So yeah, now you're in the farm. I just like saying farm like that, don't question it. And so, as you're running around the farm, you go into the house, and there are a bunch of things you can interact with in the house. There's a bunch of pans, there's a bunch of notes. There's like 17 notes in the farm. But then if you go to the kitchen, which is where the pans are, at least I believe so, I believe in the kitchen sink there is Goosebumps water, aka like this green slime water stuff. I believe there are also bolt cutters in the house, as well as an angel statue. But I'll get into the gameplay soon. Now sit back and relax while I regale you with a tale of what happened before PAH Inc. was sent to this house. There was a woman named Millicent, and there was her husband. Together they bought the farm from a tribe of Native Americans. Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that's fairly stereotypical, don't question it. But stereotypes aside, they purchased it from a land of natives. They purchased the land from natives. English. They purchased the land from natives, and along with the land, the natives give them 2 gifts. An angel statue that grants magical powers of the windmill, and a box that could trap evil. Now, one day, as Millicent and her husband are having dinner, an old elderly stranger comes up, knocks on the door, and asks for food. Well, asks if they have any food to spare. And despite the fact that they do, Millicent's husband says no and turns the man away. And you would think the man would be reacting like, how dare you? But he doesn't. He does literally the exact opposite of how you would expect him to react. He says thank you as if they gave him the best meal of his life. But that's not the end of it. As the old man is walking away, Millicent hears him mumble something under his breath. And over time, as time goes on, Millicent's husband becomes very hungry. Very, very hungry. But he's also eating a lot, he's growing fat, he seems to be aging a little more quickly. And his eating becomes so ravenous. He doesn't even eat like a human anymore. He eats like an animal. It gets to the point where Millicent thinks about poisoning his food. But she doesn't. She doesn't do anything to him except feed him and try to keep him satisfied. But it just gets to too much, and Millicent's husband attacks her. And this is where the box comes into play. Millicent grabs the box and uses it to trap her husband inside it. And then she goes into the cemetery, which is right next to the windmill, and buries the box so that no one will ever find it. Like how people always fail to do that in Jumanji. They always try to bury the game or throw it out, and it always gets found by someone. And then a woman named Karen, quite the coincidence, whatever. A woman named Karen is it's either the daughter or I believe it's the granddaughter of Millicent. So Millicent gives her the land. Karen, her husband Joe, and her 2 kids now own the land. And they start making a life for themselves. But one day, Karen gets into the cemetery and starts digging. I don't remember why. There will be a note somewhere in the house that explains this. Probably. Maybe. Hopefully. Whatever. And of course she is digging on the one spot Millicent buried the box. But Karen, despite being warned about the box and the angel statue and how they are magical, doesn't believe her grandmother. And so she opens the box, and this foul, horrendous odor blows into her face, and she strangely becomes hungry. And she starts keeping a diary. And this is where you sort of learn about what happens to her. She's easily angered, she's getting hungry more often, she's gaining weight fast, her hair is falling out and turning white, and she is aging very, very quickly as time goes on. She starts eating raw, she starts eating much more food. Eventually it gets to the point where she just eats a raw live chicken. And then it gets even worse. I am going to quote this one note in the diary from Karen. The kids were very annoying, but very delicious. Karen ate her own children. And she went after her husband next. But he doesn't use the box to trap her. Instead, he just uses himself as bait and traps her in the barn, which is like right next to the house. He sacrificed himself to trap her. And it works. She's trapped in the barn, she can't get out until paranormal activity helpers arrive on the scene, and this is where you get into gameplay. The farm, aesthetically, looks amazing. The nighttime sky in this one is actually pretty cool. And there's just chickens running around, like there would be on an actual farm. Except I think there would also be more animals than just chickens. But you walk through the house, you steal a bunch of stuff, you get an angel statue, you get a bunch of pans. You get a bunch of notes, as I said before. I also think you get the bolt cutters. And the bolt cutters are a complete necessity. Like, you literally cannot advance other than walk. You cannot advance through this level via... Basically, if you grab the bolt cutters or don't grab the bolt cutters, if you grab the bolt cutters and don't do anything with them, you're just going to be walking around the farm doing absolutely nothing. The game can literally not progress aside from... It's like this. You're just going to be eternally walking around until you use those bolt cutters. There are 4 doors that need to be bolt cutted. The door to the windmill, both doors to the shack, and the doors to the farm. and remember who's in the farm? Karen. You open that farm, and not the farm, the barn. The barn is the whole map is the farm, the barn is the building she is trapped in. Sorry, I've been saying farm the whole time. So he traps her in the barn, you release her from the barn, and she'll just start running around trying to attack you. She'll eat healthy. She'll also eat a bunch of chickens. And now, for the best part, unlike the dolls mission, it is actually much easier to get the worst ending in this farm level. Because she doesn't need to have you all injured or dead at the same time. She just needs to injure each of you once and you're all gone. So yeah, this is actually much more risky than the dolls mission. And while we're talking about her defeating you, after she defeats you, there's just a cutscene of her eating your corpse. And remember how in the dolls mission you could give Amelia a doll to calm her down. There is similar, because it is Pacify, you need to pacify the monster in some way. Otherwise it wouldn't be called Pacify. Remember those pans you got? You need to beat the chickens that are running around, pick them up, and hope you have one when Karen attacks you, because that's what pacifies her. If you're holding a chicken, she'll grab that out of your hands and eat it. But chickens are also extremely vital, not only to your survival, but also to Karen's defeat. In the shack, after you open it, you will see 45 bags of poison, like weed and insect poison. And to activate it, you need to mix it with water. You might be thinking the tub in the house or the sink in the kitchen, but it's actually neither of those, since those are already filled to the brim with their Goosebumps water. This actually gets a tad silly, in my opinion, this level. That's my one criticism of this level. It's a bit silly. So, if you read the notes, you can pick together that, since Karen is eating the chicken, you need to find this trough that has a leak, fill it with water, put the poison in the water, and put your chickens in the poisoned water, which will poison the chickens. And this is where you have to intentionally go after Karen instead of Karen going after you, which is also something I really like of this level. You have to go to the monster. In the dolls mission, you just had to run away from her and go to the furnace, but in this one, you actually have to risk your life and go towards the monster. If you feed her a poisoned chicken, the HQ guy will message you saying that it appears that the monster is being weakened, or something along those lines. I don't know. I'm not that good at the game. I don't remember the quotes of the HQ guy. And remember, I said she would also eat raw chickens that aren't poisoned, the ones that are just running around. You don't want to let her do that, because that heals her. Also, her eating you heals her. So yeah, unlike Amelia, this farm monster, Karen, actually has means of healing herself. And oh my god, this is also another criticism of the level. You had to burn 9 marked dolls there were 9 marked dolls every time you played the dolls mission. But oh my god, it gets tedious defeating Karen when you're when she's constantly eating non-poison chickens. You have to feed her so many poison chickens, it's not even worth the time. Anyway, she'll slow down. Unlike Amelia, who gets faster and more angry the closer you get to defeating her, Karen will slow down the more poison she gets. And when she attacks you, she'll really just injure you by mauling you, eating you alive. The typical stuff, the typical everyday news. And here's where the windmill comes in. If a person has the angel statue, they have to stand in the windmill after somebody cuts the lock off of it, and the holy light of the Lord will shine down upon them. Literally, I'm not even joking, that is literally what happens. These beams of light just come down on the person. If you're the person with the angel statue and you stand with the windmill, you will be standing in God's holy rays of light. And that's how you heal. An injured person comes into the rays of light and they get healed. So yes, be very careful with that angel statue. Other than that, as I said, it gets tedious if Karen is constantly healing herself. So try your very best to not let that happen. But after you defeat her, she will just fall down. I would have thought after that much poison, she'd just be straight up dead. But she's not. There is I can't believe I was about to say wagon. There is a wheelbarrow in the front yard. If you bring that to Karen, you will automatically put her inside the wheelbarrow. And honestly, Karen in the wheelbarrow is just such a stupid, silly sight. It's so hilariously stupid. You'll need to see it for yourself. And as I said, there's the good ending, the bad ending, and then the worst ending. The worst ending I already told you about, so let's go with let's start with the good ending on this one. You take her to the van, and a cutscene will play where she's in a cell filled with chickens, and the HQ guy says, as long as we constantly feed her, she seems happy. Or he says something around those lines. And then you'll go, that's not happy. That's what you'll say. You know you'll say it. I know you'll say it. Your mother knows you'll say it. Everyone in the world knows you'll say it. That's not happy. The bad ending, in the graveyard, since Karen dug it up, the box is in the graveyard open. If you use the wheelbarrow to take Karen to the box, she will be sucked into the box with this giant beam of light, and the box will close. But that isn't the end of the story. This is where, the main silliness of the farm level comes in. If you interact with the box while you're holding a poisoned chicken while it's closed, after it's closed, the box will open and an even brighter beam of light will emerge. And you'll think, oh God, no, Karen got out. Do we have to do all of this again? Be thankful you don't have to do all that again. Instead, a giant poisoned chicken will come out of the box that you need to beat with your frying pans until it is dead. So, you're just chasing the chicken around, You're just chasing this massive chicken around, beating it with frying pans. And it's green. That's like already silly. Unfortunately, you can't take the wheelbarrow for a second time and bring the chicken back to HQ instead. That would be even more hilarious if you could, but you just gotta go the van and leave. But if you don't bring the monster back to you, you get to them, you get the bad ending. And this bad ending is you in the cell, and then they open the box, trying to transfer the evil, hungry entity to you. So yeah, 2 criticisms of that level are it's tedious if she's constantly healing, and it's a bit silly. Those are my 2 criticisms. Now on to the third, final, at least at the moment, the final level. The woods. For me personally, this woods level, while easy, I feel like it was easier than the first 2, it was definitely way scarier than the first 2. The map is also much, much, much bigger than... I believe Shawn Hitchcock said the woods map was bigger than the doll's house and the farm combined. And into the backstory. Apparently, kids have been going into the woods and have been going missing. Because these woods were apparently a burial ground for witches during the Salem witch trials, or the witch trials, ever. And you're going there to investigate the disappearances. But apparently things have been like this for a while. People in the nearby town believe that Agnes Rose, the groundskeeper of the woods and the house in it, basically the groundskeeper of the entire map, is a witch as well. And oh my god, is she? She is a witch. I'm surprised they didn't freaking hang her, and they instead hung people who were innocent. Apparently what Agnes has been doing for the last, I'm gonna guess, few hundred years, at least last 100 years, last century, maybe even longer than that, was she has been taking the children and adding their lifespans to her own, which means she is gonna be living for quite a long time if she hasn't been already. Now, this is weirdly, the building in the woods is strange. It's like a nursery home, or an orphanage of some kind. There's a bunch of bunk beds, there's a toy room, there's a basement. It is actually, I could be wrong here, but I do believe it is actually an orphanage or a nursing home of some kind. Now here is where things get creepy. Every time a child goes missing, a new twig doll grows in the cemetery. And these twig dolls, at least I believe, are the souls of the children, since, the children go missing, she adds their life to hers, and then the doll is formed. I believe that's pretty much all the backstory we actually have for that map. But not only is the witch capable of adding people's lives to her own, at least children's, she has an assortment of powers. She can turn herself into a shadow. She has multiple potions with different effects. She can teleport. At least, she's pretty powerful. She's like an actual witch. And her appearance is actually really creepy. Since that's all the backstory, I'm gonna go into gameplay now. She is in this red dress that flows down all the way to her feet. And she has black hair like a raven. But if you look at her mouth and you look at her eyes, they just look like black. All three of those, the eyes and the mouth, they all look like black voids that black tears and black drool are seeping out of. And her hair also can go like really crazy sometimes. Now, as I said before, I do agree with Shawn Hitchcock that this was the scariest map out of them all. Basically, when you get there to investigate, you Austin Powers your van, and there's a sign that says, "Go away or you won't return." There are multiple different buildings you can go to get things like shears, and a few of the trees will have roses on them. And there's also a bunch of poor little ghost puppies in this cage. There's a bunch of them. I don't know why the puppies are ghosts, but they are now. Moving on to more gameplay. The woods are like sort of a maze. You have to like navigate through the woods to get to the house and get to all the buildings. But the shears are also a key item you need. If you have shears, you can cut a rose from a tree, and these roses will come back later. In the house, not the house, the orphanage or the nursery home, whatever it is, inside the building, it is creepy. Shadow people are standing around, shadow children are sitting on their bunk beds and at the table, chairs are moving by themselves, doors are locking themselves, lights are going out constantly. It is horrifying. Now, this is actually very important because, as I mentioned, she takes the souls of the children and makes them her own. She adds them to her own lifespan. But the children are sitting there as even some adults, shadow like adults, are standing around doing nothing. And if you're in the house and if you're in the house and smog starts emerging around the map, more often than not, if you don't have a rose, you are done. Because when that smog is in the house, that means the witch is in the house with you and those doors are locked. So you either gotta run or pray you have a rose. There is also one of those old-fashioned like CD players in the nursery home, and the CD on it is as follows. Hold on, I need to repair myself. Prepare, not repair. This golden throat is a very delicate instrument. Strange noises, flickering lights, moving objects, and eerie frights. Run away. She will appear if you stay. Don't make the wrong choice or you will feel her breath and hear her voice. You took too much time to run and hide. The witch is already by your side. She is angry you have no rose. She will trap your soul in a doll that grows. Now, one of those lines, she is angry you have no rose. If you couldn't guess from her name and that line and what she is wearing, if you have a rose, that is what pacifies her, at least for the time being. If you are holding a rose, she will grab it out of your hand and smell it and then disappear. Similar to the first level, there are some keys you need to grab to actually defeat her. There's the gate key, which is the gate for the gate key is for the gate that contains all the puppies. There's a basement key, which opens the hatch to the basement, and then there is a house key, which just unlocks all the doors around the house. The building itself also has a general creepiness, especially with this one mirror that is just there. And there's also a toy room. Thank God there's not like a bunch of dolls in the toy room. However, that would be a nice throwback to the first level. Anyway, moving on. There is a very specific way to defeat the witch. Sort of like how potions and all these movies, fantasy books and stuff have certain ingredients. You need certain ingredients to defeat the witch. You need witch's hair, the tail of a puppy dog, a twig doll from the cemetery. Was that it? I believe that was it. But I also know that 2 of those items are difficult to get. Witch's hair is just lying around the area. Well, lying around the building. And you can pick it up. But to get a puppy dog tail, I can't believe I have to say this, you need to use your shears to get up to one of the ghost puppies and cut its tail off with the shears. And it makes the most horrible noise, but thank God the dogs are ghosts, so they can die again. And then, as I said, you need a twig doll for the cemetery, which came up in the backstory. One formed after each child disappeared. Both the ones you were called in to investigate for and the ones before that. Now this is an even bigger problem. When you grab that twig doll, a massive twig shadow man will emerge from the ground, and he's like twice your height. And he'll be very, very angry that you stole his child. You need to run. The moment you have that doll, you need to bolt for your life. Because if you don't, the Twigman will knock you down, grab it, and retreat back to the grave you got the twig from. The twig doll. Once you have all those ingredients and you are safe, you need to go into the basement, which has this cauldron. And then, once you have all the items, you put them in the cauldron together, wait for the ritual to finish, and when the ritual is finished, the twig doll will be different. It'll be like it's the same thing, it has the same appearance visually, but it is different just away from the other dolls. Once you pull the doll, after the ritual is finished, out of the cauldron, there will be this board with a bunch of spikes on it, and you have to put that doll on one of the spikes. And that is what you have to keep doing. you need those ingredients. You need to avoid the treemen. You need to catch the puppies, all while the witch is constantly teleporting around trying to get you guys and defeat you all. And honestly, you don't really want to be near her when she catches you, because when she catches you, she turns you into a mouse. You heard that right. A mouse. Or a rat. Pick one. However, as usual, there is a way to revive yourself. On the dolls, it was to touch the lit furnace. On the farm, it was to step into the holy magic of the windmill. And for this one, you need to go to the river and cleanse yourself, which will turn you back into your regular human form. After this happens, you will need to constantly get the ingredients. I'm pretty sure if you get turned into a rat, you lose all the ingredients. And you can also steal potions from the basement while you're in there. And the potions will grant you invisibility, speed, or some sort of shadow effect. After you impale enough dolls on the board with the spikes, the witch will be defeated. And time to go over the 3 endings. The bad ending, the worst ending, and the good ending. Let's start with the bad ending. This time. After you defeat the witch, you can take her and yeet her into the river, where she will vanish in thunder and light and all this stuff. And then your HQ guy will call you up being like, you killed the witch. I don't remember the full things. However, this may or may not be the full thing. You killed the witch. The children's spirits are released, but that's not what we wanted you to do. We wanted the witch. Why would you throw her into the water? Get in the van. And you'll be in the cell next. Though not really being experimented on. All you see is smoke and have blurry vision and blurry hearing. The HQ guy's voice starts getting distorted. But nothing really happens, no experimentation. So yeah, pretty boring cutscene, just him talking to you. However, if you be a good employee and bring the witch to the van, she is there in the cell, and it's starting to smoke, and she tries to get out. And the HQ guy admits that he'll need to get some extra people to keep the headquarters secure. They have prepared multiple dolls to keep the witch weakened to the point where she can't get out of the cell. And next, let's go to the final ending. If the witch turns all of you into rats and you're all rats at the same time, your dinner! That's literally your dinner. You're literally her dinner. If you're all rats, a cutscene will play where she just drops you as a rat into the cauldron. And then she'll scream at the camera. And that is the third and final current level of Pacify. Now, let's go over just my overall thoughts on each level, not detailed particularly. So, dolls. Terrified of dolls. Terrified of little girls. Little ghost girls. Those combined made the doll pretty scary for me, as well as the thunder in the night when you're first outside. One criticism of the doll mission that I do have is it's sort of not tedious. Tedious isn't the word, but it's overall just the main problem is finding all the keys. The only tedious part about it is if she's like constantly mad and is just constantly turning you into dolls right after you are. Basically, imagine like this. You get turned into a doll, you touch the furnace, grow large again, leave the room for 2 seconds, get turned into a doll again. That's my one criticism with it, since she can fly around the house at superhuman speeds. At least at that level of her mission. As I said, my concerns with the farm were a few. Sometimes it can be a bit silly, and I will say, at least for me personally, Karen wasn't as creepy as the other two. That's another thing. And it can get tedious if she's constantly healing. My one criticism of the woods is, while very scary and very fun, it did feel a bit easier than the previous 2 levels. When you knew what to do. Personally, that's actually probably just me being mistaken, but whatever. So yeah, overall thoughts, pretty good game, aside from one aspect. Shawn Hitchcock added a PvP mode. You can play PvP mode, but that mode is just super buggy, so I wouldn't play it. It's more of a co-op and solo game. Don't do the PvP. Plus, the PvP is probably not what you even expect. You don't play as the entity, you're just trying to screw each other over. And it's super buggy, so yeah, wouldn't play it very well. Overall thoughts? Pretty good game. Supposedly he's gonna add 1 or 2 more levels to it, and then it's gonna be on consoles, since right now it's only on computers. You can only play it on a computer. Right? So yeah, pretty good game. More content coming soon from him, supposedly. And a PvP mode's buggy, a few criticisms of the levels, but overall I think it's a pretty good game, especially if it keeps getting content. This is Dragonking, and I am signing off. Bye bye!